Welcome back, saucers.
Welcome the F back. And we might be a little bit late. We don't care because, you want to hear our takes on these.
Yeah.
The Murdaugh murders. Murdaugh. Tell me, from that documentary, how do you pronounce this?
Well, they were like,
Alec?
they were saying it different ways. Like, even the family members were saying it different ways. They were like,
I'm sick and tired of how they pronounce things.
yeah, me too. But we'll just say Murdaugh murders.
Murdaugh
Murders.
I know you've heard about it. If you haven't heard about it, we're enlightening you, but we're also going to go in like all the facts of this case, and we're going to dive into the juicy parts of everything that this family has done and like the terror that they've caused this community.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, this is an SOS moment of white privilege, of
Yes.
what
privilege.
else is there? Exactly.
It's like, which is white privilege, but like, it's just so, there are so many, this is a small town in the South, but also there are so many small towns and big cities. And at the end of the day, like, countries are corporations. So this is really like a small, little, tiny, myopic view of what actually happens in so many places. And when one family in power, obviously always rich and white, controls like the entire justice system in a town, in a community, like from everything from the investigators, the detectives, the judicial system, like the DA, and literally from every angle, they have all the power.
Everything. Mm-hmm. It blew my mind how much they were able to get away with. Things that I had no idea. So we encourage you guys to look up the documentary on Netflix. That was so insane.
Yeah.
And then we also used some articles to help our research today from the New York Times, Newsweek. We'll be listing those in our show notes. But if you've been living under a rock, this is a criminal case against Alec Murdaugh, the former lawyer accused of killing his wife and son, Maggie and Paul. And it's part of a web of accusations, investigations, and lawsuits that have accompanied the downfall of a member of one of South Carolina's most prominent legal dynasties. So his daddy, his granddaddy, his great-granddaddy, his great-great-granddaddy, all lawyers, okay? Yep. Like, they have so much power in this small town.
In that town, yeah.
Yeah, and they specialize, he specifically specializes in civil litigation. And his family law firm, based in the tiny town of Hampton, was considered a powerhouse on the state plaintiff's bar. And his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all served as top prosecutors across a wide region of the state. So those are the facts, right? Mm-hmm. But we're going to have to take it back, because it's not just the murder of Maggie and Paul. There is so much more that they got away with. And it starts, I'm sure, earlier than 2015. But that's how just what we know of, starts in 2015, specifically July 8th. So July 8th, 2015, the body of Stephen Smith, 19 years old, was found on Sandy Run Road in Hampton County, South Carolina. His death was ruled a hit and run, but his family had lingering questions. Let's learn more. Smith had a 7.25-inch gash on the right side of his forehead, as well as a partially dislocated right shoulder and cuts and bruises on his right hand. His car was located 3 miles away, with the gas cap unscrewed and his wallet still inside. According to the Hampton County Guardian, Smith was on his way home from a night class at Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College, where he was studying nursing, when his car ran out of gas on Highway 601, and authorities believed he had began walking home along Sandy Run Road, a claim his family disputes. Already
weird.
Weird.
So coroner Ernie Washington, who was present on the scene when Smith's body was found, he told lead investigator Todd Proctor that he did not agree with the autopsy findings. Proctor's case notes from the conversation detailed that Washington said he does not agree with the pathologist that the victim was struck by a motor vehicle. A member of the Smith family told the SCHP that Randy Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh's brother, had contacted Smith's father on the day of his death and said that he would take on Smith's case free of charge.
Okay, right off the bat.
Like,
clue number one, okay? The fact that, this random guy, no one had said anything about Murdaugh yet. Like all of a sudden, this guy is contacting the family and be like, I got you.
Free of charge.
free of charge.
Let me just take care of you free of charge. So in the same interview, the Smith family member told the SCHP that the first time she went to the store following Smith's death, people approached her and alleged that Buster Murdaugh was Alex's oldest son and a
Paul's
classmate
older brother.
Oldest, wait, what?
Paul's older brother.
Paul's older brother, yeah. And a classmate of Smith who died was responsible. So people were approaching Smith's mom in the store saying that Buster Murdaugh was responsible.
Fucking Buster.
Yeah. So the news actually reported that neither the offer from Randy nor the tip about Buster were included in the written case notes.
I wonder why. That's weird.
That's also weird. Yeah. From that point on, the Murdaugh family name was brought up this is a quote, more than 40 times throughout the course of the investigation. Additionally, more than half of the people interviewed during the investigation mentioned hearing about rumors of Buster Murdaugh's possible involvement in Smith's death. However, Buster was never brought in for questioning. So your name is mentioned over 40 times documented. Yeah. And over half the people that you talk to mention hearing this rumor. And in the documentary, one of the investigators was saying, like, you know, you hear a lot of rumors start, you understand when you're an investigator that there are a lot of rumors going around. However, if you hear the same rumor from a bunch of different people enough times, you do question whether that's a rumor. And this was so pervasive in the community that everyone was saying that it was a rumor that everyone had heard at some point. Yeah. And it's that's also a red flag.
Exactly. And it's not even just their involvement. It's the fact that like everyone knew that Buster and his little brother Paul were like just asshole party guys that didn't give a fuck because they always got away. They were always drinking, they were always partying, and they were always getting away with things. That was just a known fact in this town. So mixed with the fact that there were rumors about his involvement with Stephen. Okay. Yeah. And the fact that like the uncle decided to offer up his services free of charge,
and not once. You know how many times in investigations, they just follow up any lead that they can, even if it seems far fetched because they have nothing to go on yet, right? So if you're if you're hearing once or twice a rumor about Buster, if half the people you interview mention Buster and his name is mentioned over 40 times, and you don't even bring him in once for questioning, what the fuck? So during the course of their investigation, police encountered several theories about how the 19-year-old nursing student died. The notes from the case file shed light on many rumors that were floating around in the area in the weeks following Smith's death. In one such instance, a friend of a relative of Smith's told the police that she received a text asking where Buster Murdaugh were Buster Murdaugh and Stephen together. Stephen?
I think Stephen.
Stephen. Okay. So she received a text saying, were Buster and Stephen together? The friend told police that she said no, and the person who sent the text told the police that he had simply heard the rumor. So another individual told police that certain young men, in quote, certain young men were riding down Highway 601 the night Smith died, saw him broken down, and turned around. The young men then, quote, stuck something out the window. The individual stated that that ended up hitting Smith and killing him. The individual also told police in a face-to-face meeting that one of the men in the car was reportedly Buster Murdaugh, and that all of the information he provided was only hearsay.
If it's not, fine. Like maybe it's not, right?
So this
you got
is a
rumors
lot.
About their, rumors about their possibly being together, rumors that they were there on the scene, giving him a ride. Just the fact that Randy, the uncle, offered up his services should give you everything you need to know. If Buster had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with it, Buster or his friends, there would be no reason for Randy to get involved.
Of course.
So let's jump forward to 2018. February 26th, 2018. Now, Gloria Satterfield, who's 57 years old, worked as a housekeeper and nanny for the Murdaugh family for about a quarter of a century and died about 2 weeks after she was reported to have fallen on the front stairs of the family's hunting property. Okay, so it is so crazy because I remember, if you remember in the documentary, if you haven't seen it at home, please see it. But spoiler alert, I mean, this is all out there already.
Out there.
But like, the friends kept talking about how much this woman means to Paul.
Yeah.
And Paul Murdaugh is, this is kind of the start of how this all dominoed, because it was the murder of him and his mom. Now we're going to talk about Paul right now. Like Paul, I mean, this family is so messed up, but Paul was extremely close to this woman. Extremely
because she seemed to be like a nanny figure to him.
And
so
a mother
he was,
figure.
a mother figure. Like, yeah. So like basically a nanny. She was a housekeeper, but it seemed like a nanny because he bonded with her as a mother figure and seemed to get the affection and love that he didn't get from his own parents, like mother or father, it seems. And so, yeah, just there's a lot of, I don't know, people listening maybe haven't watched a documentary. There's a lot of names like right now we're just like Gloria. Blah, blah, blah. So just to reiterate, Alec Murdaugh is the one who was being charged for these murders. Paul is his son, and Paul, and then this Gloria woman is the housekeeper. So
yeah,
just to reiterate that because I can get a little lost.
Was the one? Yes, he was the one who was indicted for killing his wife Maggie and his son Paul. He has another son, Buster, who could most likely be involved in the Stephen Smith case.
Right.
Alec also has a brother, Randy, who's also a lawyer and shady as fuck.
Yes.
And yes. Okay.
I feel like, that was
Gloria.
helpful. A little recap because there's just a lot of.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so, Gloria.
The fall caused Maggie Murdaugh to wake up sometime after 9 a.m. She awakened her son Paul, who was also sleeping, and called 911 at 9:24 a.m. Alec Murdaugh said he was at work at the time, 20 minutes away, and that his wife had called him at 9:45 a.m. to tell him about the fall. He rushed to the scene, arriving before emergency medical technicians who were there at 9:41 a.m. Before Alec arrived, Paul tried to sit Gloria up, but someone told him to turn her loose, so she fell back over. When Alec arrived, Gloria was sitting on the stairs, but there are reports that he also helped Paul sit her on the stairs. So there's so many conflicting, there was already so many conflicting things between Alec and Paul.
Their investigations are not accurately documented because that family runs all the shit. So you can't even trust what you're hearing.
There's so many things you can't trust.
Yeah.
So after her fall and before EMTs arrived, Gloria was either speaking gibberish and unable to form words or lucid enough to tell Alec that the dogs tripped her up. Like there's, again, more conflicting things. Like she was able to tell that it was the dogs. Like that's according to Alec. But then the other people were saying like, no, she was like never making sense. And other reports say Miss Satterfield made no such statement and later told hospital staff that she did not know why she had fallen. So again, more conflicting reports.
Yeah.
And then the accounts and reports had taken as a whole contradict each other in places, as well as established facts of the Murdaugh family, as well as established facts about the family. Though it is still unclear what happened to Satterfield in the moments before she fell, it is clear she fell very hard. At the time of Gloria Satterfield's fall, Alec Murdaugh had 2 insurance policies that covered this situation. Lloyd's of London, which held his underlying insurance policy for $505,000, and Nautilus, which held his extra or umbrella policy for $5 million. Now, this is a little complicated, but in order for the umbrella policy to take effect, every penny of the underlying policy had to be paid, or a promise of payment had to be paid. So to do so, Alec had to sue himself. Okay, so he had to sue himself to gain this money, and he promised. This is the kicker, and we'll come back to this, about how this ended up turning out. I'm sure you can assume. He promised Gloria's sons all the money he'd make from the lawsuit. Yeah, and obviously important to note how close Paul and Gloria were.
Yeah,
and we're gonna get into. There's like a lot of speculations of the cause if they had anything to do with her death. But this is now the second dead that we know of. Of course, there obviously could be more with this family and other families across this country that get away with things like this.
Yeah.
But this is the second dead body associated with this family at this point.
Well, with these 2 generations of this family.
Exactly, with at least these generations. Because who knows what the grandfather also had so much influence. Like he was just cleaning shit up left and right.
Yeah. Oh, all over the place. And okay, so now we're going to jump ahead. February 24th, 2019, Alex Murdaugh's younger son, Paul, who was only 19, drunkenly crashed the family boat into a bridge, throwing passengers into the water. The body of one passenger, Mallory Beach, 19, was found a week later. at the hospital, Paul's blood was taken and was reported to be more than 3 times the legal limit at 0.286 blood alcohol content. In the Netflix series, the family hired investigators that reenacted the boating accident to give the family a comprehensive breakdown of what happened. So Mallory Beach and her then boyfriend, Anthony Cook, had planned to attend a party at Pocky Island. I don't know, with Anthony's cousin.
Like the oyster.
Yeah, it was like an oyster bake on the beach or something like that. Yeah. And it was with, so Mallory, her boyfriend Anthony, and then Anthony's cousin Connor and his girlfriend Miley. It's a lot of names. People are going to get a little bit lost, but so they planned to meet. They planned to meet Paul Murdaugh and his girlfriend Morgan on his family's island before taking the family boat to the party. Since Paul was
and Miley and Morgan are Miley and Morgan are Mallory's BFFs, and Miley is dating Anthony's cousin Connor. Paul Murdaugh is dating the other best friend, Morgan. So it's like best friends dating best friends. It's like
it's like they were 6 very people, like 3 couples, and they're all friends.
Yeah.
And then since Paul was operating the boat while intoxicated, his motor skills and reflexes were off. According to many of the passengers, Paul refused to give up the wheel and was acting aggressively, especially toward his girlfriend Morgan.
Oh yeah, and stuff like he was calling her a whore. He
was physically abusive
and
to her.
And he physically abused her, and it wasn't the first time. Just so you know, like Paul has had an extensive
track record.
Has an experience exactly. It has an experience with being abusive physically and emotionally to his girlfriend and probably others.
Exactly. According to the Netflix series, Alex and his father arrived at the hospital and told the officers that they were representing all the kids involved. So immediately,
so here's another one.
So all that has happened so far is the parents get that terrifying call that no parent wants to get late at night, that there's been an accident and their kids in the hospital, or some of them in the Mallory's parents are still like, "Where's our daughter?" And so the other kids and their parents are now are at the hospital. The parents are arriving. Everybody's main concern, of course, after they see their kid and they want to know how their kid's doing, all the other parents are like, "Where's Mallory? What happened to Mallory? What happened? How did this happen? Where's Mallory?" And but Paul's family comes in, and the first thing they tell all the staff at the hospital and everybody, we are representing everybody in this case. Has anybody talked yet? That's what they're asking. They're not even concerned. Like the documentary had some really chilling testimonial from the other parents where they're all crying, remembering this moment, and they're in the hospital with their kids, and they remember seeing Alec for the first time, and like Paul's parent, another parent that comes in, they're crying, and Paul is saying, about Morgan, one of the girls, Paul's girlfriend. He's like seeing the other parents, and one of the parents remembered saying like, "Is Mallory okay?" And he said something like, "Who?" And she said, Mallory's missing. Like and he said, he like dismissed it and was like, "Oh yeah, I don't think it's going to be very good news about that."
Yeah, you know what he said. Like, turn out.
Yeah, and you know how that's going to turn out. And he also said to one of the parents of one of the kids, like, instead of consoling and they're all crying and, "Oh my God, is everyone okay?" He says, "Has she talked to anybody yet?" She's laying in a hospital bed, and he's wondering, has she talked to the cops or
about
anyone
Morgan?
Yet? Yeah.
You know what's so dark is that none of the cops, no one reached out to Mallory's parents directly. It was Anthony's parents that called her.
To tell them that Mallory was in that night, to tell them Mallory was missing.
So that just goes to show where the police's heads were at. Yeah. Like that's how deep their relationship is with the Murdaughs, that they didn't even they didn't want to even let the parents know because they wanted to figure out allegedly how they can clean this up before letting Mallory's parents know. They're like, "I don't know, we shouldn't do that just yet." Like that is not.
They come at it purely, and all the other parents are there, and in the midst of their distress of their child being involved, all of those other sets of parents are like, "Where are Mallory's parents? Has anyone talked to them yet? I don't want to be the one to call them. Someone needs to call them."
Yeah.
So so while they're at the hospital in this chaos, Paul and Alec try to frame Paul's friend Connor, who was also on the boat. They try to frame him saying, saying that he was the one driving the boat. And this was eventually proven untrue, but it was basically like a first ditch effort from the family to like absolve Paul of any blame and their family in general of any blame. But that's their main concern, is coming into the hospital, telling them they're representing all the kids. Has anyone talked yet? Connor was driving. My son, that's where they go with it. And then on top of that, this is one of the most shocking and appalling things to me, that this shows you how much power that family has, because even the manpower and the resources to do this, the Murdaugh family seized the actual boat. The next day, they went to the scene where it's still being investigated. Mallory still hasn't been found. They're still searching the waters. And they were able to seize the boat, and it was never examined as part of the crime scene at all. Like, it literally, they took the goddamn boat out of the water mid crime scene investigation, and they weren't stopped, and they were able to do it. And why? Because they control all the aspects of that town.
Exactly. And this is the part where they tried to frame Connor. And I was like, my heart broke for these kids, all of them. My heart broke for them because they are so traumatized by this. And like the fact that they tried to frame Connor, who was trying to get him to stop driving.
Yeah.
And he was so hurt himself and his girlfriend, physically, emotionally, obviously. I think it just kind of goes to show how actually like stupid the Murdaughs are. But it like doesn't matter how stupid, because like that can be easily debunked. There are four other people on board that can tell you that it was not Connor driving.
But that's what happens when you're that entitled and complacent. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because they've been getting away with all this already. The fact that they could even go take the boat away when the day after, I think it was a day after, they haven't found the body that's missing. The boat hasn't been examined, and they're just so blasé about, we'll just go and like we'll take the boat, and oh yeah, no, it wasn't. So stupidity really is a thing, because when you have that much power and you have that much, you're just so complacent in your ultimate authority and your God complex, because you really are God in that situation. It's like, okay, what makes it into the notes and what doesn't? Yeah, not that. How about you investigate that? But here's what you're going to find. And how about you really are like puppeteer. You're playing God, and you're used to it. And so you don't have to utilize intelligence and, okay, how could this be debunked or not? Because that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because you're going to be enabled by the police force, that everybody that's going to watch out for you. And it's appalling. It really is.
It is. Yeah. April.
Yes, April. Okay, so April 18th, 2019. Paul Murdaugh was charged with 3 felony accounts in connection with the deadly boat crash. He later pled not guilty. So that's kind of where that was. So now we're going to get to the meat of this. So this is 3 dead bodies. 3 dead bodies associated with the Murdaughs before we get into 2021. 3. Okay?
In 4 years.
In 4 years. Oh, another thing, sorry, about the Mallory Beach case that killed me was the fact that her parents were never allowed to get down to the crime scene. They were never allowed to get down to the bridge. They were never allowed to look or see anything with their eyes. But guess who? Guess who was able to look? All the Murdaughs with the police there. It was all supervised. You know, it wasn't even like secretly like when the boat was seized. It was literally like out in the open. Mallory's parents are watching after they were told no. They were watching Alec and his brother and Alec's father go down to the crime scene. Like that is insane privilege.
Their daughter is the only one missing.
Exactly. So. And then in that case, you know, when he was charged with 3 felonies, they had found her body by that point. Terrible. So June 7th, 2021. Alec Murdaugh called 911 to report that his wife Maggie and son Paul had been shot at the family's hunting property in Islandton, a rural hamlet about 65 miles west of Charleston. They had a huge, sprawling property. They were both shot multiple times with different weapons at the dog kennels on the property, sometime after they all had dinner together at the main house. In addition to cell phone data, one of the strongest piece of evidence was a Snapchat video captured by Paul that put his father at the kennels, the scene of the crime, minutes prior to the murders. He had previously claimed to be napping, Alec had previously claimed to be napping at the main home on the property during that time frame, as well as visiting. It's like it changed. He was like napping at one time and also visiting his parents. Like,
yeah.
It's just so ridiculous.
The amount of times that his stories changed and they keep like... Okay.
Like, yeah, sure. Paul was living in a log cabin at the Moselle property, and Maggie was said to have been spending more time at the family's beach house about an hour's drive away in Edisto due to marital issues. There was also accounts of her getting a divorce lawyer. Like, there's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, she was like finding some like financial things that he had lied about, not to mention the murders, but whatever.
Yep. In the days after the murder, so this was crazy. In the days after the murder, a YouTuber used his drone camera to get footage of the Murdaugh property, and he miraculously was able to capture Alec's brother taking guns. Randy, if you remember, we talked about him before. He's the one that keeps popping up and offering up his services. He was part of seizing the boat. Yeah, he's a lawyer. He was captured taking guns out of the property, guns that, mind you, that matches the description of the ones that killed Paul and Maggie, out of Alec's house and onto a truck, and was driven off the property.
Yep. And that was captured by a YouTuber's drone.
Like, just randomly one day he was being nosy because no one could get onto the property. So he was like, fuck it, I'll send my drone in there, and caught this footage. And so, LOL, police have never found the weapons that killed Paul and Maggie. Two different guns, by the way. One was a shotgun. I think one was a long-range pistol.
But they were unloading, like, a lot of guns.
Oh, yeah. This family had a shit ton of guns. I remember they also go into, in the documentary, because Morgan was talking about how one time her and Paul were driving and Paul was erratic, and she had tried to get him to slow down, and he didn't. I think he was drunk. And he drove them into a ditch, and the car flipped over. And what is the first thing he does? It's not call 911. She actually called 911, and he yelled at her, I think through her phone.
He did.
He called his granddaddy and his mom.
And the first thing they did was clear out all they said they cleared out all the guns before they even asked either kid. They arrive on the scene before they asked either kid, "Are you okay?" They were like, where are you have all the guns? Take them away.
They just take all the guns out. And then they yell at her for like, why would you call the cops? Why would you do that? And she's just like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God. Okay, so June 22nd.
You did? Okay. June 22nd, 2021. State officials announced that they were reopening investigations into the death of Mr. Smith, the teenager who died in 2015. Yeah. Based on information gathered during investigations into the murders of Maggie and Paul. So they're like, oh, we're going to reopen this because there's a lot going on. Yeah. And then that was June 2021. And now we're in September 2021. Mr. Murdaugh was forced to resign from his family law firm after his partner said that he had misused millions of dollars of client and firm money.
So now it's coming out that there's a lot of financial issues at play here. And what's so great is that this was first brought on by the lawsuits by Mallory's parents, because they had sued Paul and Alec, and that opened up all of these question marks about his finances. So it's a good thing they did that. Not a good thing of why, obviously, but at least they took action in that front, which opened up all of this stuff. So he's just stealing money. No, I mean, obviously.
Of course, yeah. All rich white men that are in power, that's usually how they get more power. So that was September 3rd that he was forced to resign, 2021.
This is the day after.
September 4th, Mr. Murdaugh called 911 from the side of the road not far from his home and said that he had been shot in the head, he himself. He claimed that the shooter had pulled up beside him as he was inspecting a flat tire. Mr. Murdaugh survived with a head wound. So
can you, I don't know if you guys can keep up at home. This is just 3 or 4 months after, his family, his youngest son and his wife are shot to death. He, the day before, gets resigns from his law firm for stealing money. the day after, gets shot in the head.
Randomly.
Right.
Yeah, somebody just pulls up and shoots him while he's looking at a flat tire.
Yeah, just needed a
and
recap.
then, so did you go, okay, so yeah, September 6th, Mr. Murdaugh released a statement through his lawyers saying that he had made decisions he regretted and was entering a rehab program. And then September 14th, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division said Mr. Murdaugh had admitted that he had asked a former client, Curtis Edward Smith, to shoot and kill him on September 4th so that Mr. Murdaugh's surviving son, Richard, who is known as Buster, could collect a $10 million insurance payment. So he literally hired a guy, and I think that guy was that guy a drug dealer? Did I make this up?
He was into some shit. Oh, yes. There was a lot of drugs involved. We'll get into
he hired one of his like coke dealers or some guy that he knew who was something
I think it was
like
in a
that.
prescription. Yeah.
Okay. So he hired this guy to kill him, and so that his son could collect the insurance money. Because at this point, he's like, I just murdered my wife and my youngest son, and I had to resign from my job, and my whole life is spiraling, and like I need to just like someone needs to take me out so my son can get the money, right? So, but it didn't succeed because he survived with the head wound.
And there's also like kind of disputes of that. Like Curtis says that he had just called him to that location, and then there was a struggle. Essentially, like Curtis says he wasn't hired to do that. Like because
there's also if you're shooting from that close range, well, the Curtis guy was like, oh, if I was hired to kill him, like he'd be dead. Yeah, he's not gonna miss. But yeah, okay. September
14th. Oh no, September 15th. So okay, this is the day after the 14th, where they announced that like Alec just admitted that he had tried to frame he basically set up a suicide by murder. So September 15th, South Carolina law enforcement officials announced an investigation into the death of now Gloria Satterfield, the housekeeper who died in 2018, and her family members filed a lawsuit against Alec and others alleging they pocketed settlement funds related to her death. So there you go. Like all that money he promised after suing himself with the insurance policy and everything, he kept all that money.
This is crazy because it's like
surprise.
This trail of events is happening so fast. It's like he kills his wife and son. He gets that other case gets brought back up about that 19-year-old nursing student who dies on the road. He's forced to resign from his job for for misusing the money. And then he tries to fake a murder or suicide. And then the case of the housekeeper gets brought back. This is like 6 things in a matter of time where like you can imagine he just wants the fuck out of this world.
Oh yeah. So September 16th, the day after that, Alec was arrested and charged with fraud and conspiracy in the suicide scheme. His lawyer said that Alec was depressed by the loss of his family and struggling to stop abusing painkillers when he devised the plan, and that he would check into a rehab, and a judge released Alec but ordered him to surrender his passport. So by this is 4 months after, he still is not, am I saying that, or 3 months? Sorry.
I don't know.
3 months. No, 2 months. 3.
Who cares?
2, 3. 3 months after, he's still not charged. Like after all of these lies and everything coming out, he's still not charged for Paul and Maggie's death. It's just ridiculous how long it's taking. So October 14th of the same year in 2021, Alec was arrested at a Florida drug detoxification center and charged with swindling millions of dollars from the sons of Gloria. He was arrested in Richland County, South Carolina, and twice denied bond. So now he's arrested for that. And then December 13th of 2021, during a hearing at which a judge set his bond at $7 million, Alec's lawyer said that his client had agreed to pay $4.3 million to Gloria's family, and he still remained in jail. June 3rd of the next year, so now we're in 2022, the police said that they planned to exhume Gloria's body, having received permission from her family. So now they're looking into that autopsy.
June 28th, 2022, Mr. Murdaugh and Mr. Smith were indicted by this. What?
Curtis, because there's also Stephen Smith.
Oh,
Curtis
yeah.
Smith, the client.
The one who shot him in the head. Yeah. Thank you. Curtis were indicted by the state's grand jury on 2 conspiracy counts, including narcotics count related to the painkiller oxycodone. So July 14th, Alec Murdaugh was indicted on 2 counts of murder. Prosecutors said he was fatally shot his wife with a rifle and his son with a shotgun.
Took a year.
Yeah, July 20th, Mr. Murdaugh pleaded not guilty at a bond hearing, and his lawyers said he wanted to go to trial as soon as possible. Now we're into December 2022. A state grand jury indicted Mr. Murdaugh on 9 counts of tax evasion, and prosecutors with the state attorney general's office said that he had defrauded a range of people of about 8.8 million. And March 2nd, 2023, so this just happened, Mr. Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering his wife and son. Yep.
I mean, it took long, but you know what I mean? At least he's in jail and he's going to rot there.
And honestly, if that Netflix documentary, that has some power when that stuff comes out.
Oh, 100%. And again, like, because of all the bodies that kept piling up and also the lawsuits that were helping reveal a lot of his financial issues, if you want to call it that, his scheming, it really helped getting the news involved in this. Yeah. Because once you have eyeballs, like, from outside of this small town, like, the police can only do so much for you. Like, you start losing your power the more people get involved. And that's what happens, right? You know, when a lot of other corporations or other people or even, like, you know, cops that are corrupt and, you know, kill people, the only reason that they even get in trouble is probably because it's recorded and people are talking about it. So it just goes to show how often this is happening, most likely in other parts of the country. Because they just don't have eyes. We don't have eyes on them. There's so much that we don't know. But you can imagine what people are getting away with. And there are a lot of theories about why he would want to kill his wife and son. I mean, even after the documentary, you're just like, but why?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's just so deep in it.
Yeah. So there was evidence that was also presented at the trial that had shown Maggie and Paul that they were aware Alec was spending $60,000 a week on his 20-year opioid addiction. Text messages show Paul confronted his father on the issue after allegedly finding a bag of drugs 1 month before his and his mom's deaths, per The Independent. Alec is facing more than 100 other charges for alleged financial crimes as well. The former lawyer also allegedly tried to fake his own death. So his son Buster could benefit from a $10 million life insurance settlement. So with the fact that, like, when he faked his death, and like Maggie and Paul confronting it. Yes. Tried to, obviously. And Maggie and Paul finding out about his addictions. I mean, you can most likely put together that he was, you know, trying to cover up things.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know. Yep. Buster is weird. I'm gonna go into the other theory, but Buster is fucking weird. Theory 2, there were 2 shooters, and this is why I say Buster's weird. There were 2 shooters that had killed Maggie and Paul. Alec's defense attorney, Dick Harpootlian, what a name, argued that the manner in which Maggie and Paul were killed suggests there were 2 shooters. It was argued that one shooter attacked Paul, whilst another acted as a lookout. This lookout was then allegedly intercepted by Maggie, so they killed her. Murdaugh's defense also said the fact that different weapons were used in the shootings added to the theory. I mean,
that was my thing. I was like, why would you just switch guns for another person?
Exactly. I am on a theory of thinking that Buster was involved. I think because Buster still has a relationship with his father. And that's what's crazy, is that they're still talking every day on the phone while he's in jail. He's still, like, riding hard for his family and his dad. Yeah. I don't buy that for a second. I mean, there's one thing from still loving your father, you know, after addiction and fraud and murder. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you still love your father, but to still be in contact with him in the way that he is and supporting him in the way that he is, no way. If there's even a shot that he could have killed your brother and your mother, you sever ties.
Oh, yeah.
That's like that's like, I just can't understand the disorder or like the disordered thinking when it comes to supporting your father still in that way, even after being charged. And I don't get it.
Yeah. No, me neither.
Being found guilty. So there's another theory that Alex knew his reputation was about to be destroyed in the press and wanted sympathy and redemption through the death of his family. So that's another strong theory that he just needed sympathy because he knew all of this stuff was about to come out about his fraud and his financial issues.
Egotistical maniac. So whatever, like a desperate grab, at the end of the day, your reputation is about to be destroyed. Really, there's nothing you won't do because your lines have already been blurred. You've already covered up and caused multiple murders. So, and your own family is about to, like, his wife was digging up financial things and considering a divorce. So it's like, you gotta, gotta cut that off, so.
Exactly. So, I mean, you guys, if you haven't seen the documentary, please go see it. There's a lot more stuff in there that we didn't cover, but I mean, especially like hearing from, like, they go really hard into the Mallory case, and hearing from those kids involved that knew Paul really well, that obviously knew Mallory really well. It is just so devastating. And like to this day, you can tell they're still so affected by what happened to them, by being thrown off that boat. They were all like, for the most part, injured. Yeah. And yeah, it is really, really devastating. Like I had to like stop watching at a certain point, like I think in the middle of the second episode, and walk away and go to sleep because I was just like, I cannot, I just can't, like, I can't consume this amount of fucking like corruption. You know what I mean? Like I can't stomach it. I can't stomach this privilege. I can't stomach all the things that they've been able to get away with. It's kind of hard to hear and watch when you see people suffering and they just keep getting away with stuff.
I know.
And they have all of this wealth and privilege. It's just disgusting to me. I don't know.
It's just like, that's not even, it's just happening everywhere. This is like one case that went viral and got big and whatever. It has a Netflix documentary about it, but
yeah,
this is what happens when we are just, what?
You know what I'm saying? Like, and also Paul and Maggie, I mean, rest in peace, but they were also complicit in a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. They were not innocent people themselves. So it's like this whole family just cast him off this fucking island. I'm done. And the fact that I want that uncle charged.
Yeah, everybody, literally everybody should be. This is like a whole, the cops that did as they were told should be charged, like everybody.
Yeah, and hopefully we get more information about Gloria's death. Hopefully we get more information about Steven's death, because I want especially Buster to get busted.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, guys. So that's all, folks. So we are going to list the articles that helped us out for this in our show notes. Be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to us. Find us on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa, and iTunes, Apple Podcasts, guys, Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts, we're there. Rate and review us as well. It helps us reach more people.
Yes, and I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
And here's the Turning Meltdowns
into Magic.